Welcome back to the Tribal Lines podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Lupo, and my co-host, Pat Johnson, unfortunately cannot be here with us tonight. He is going to be throughout this season dealing with a lot of work, stuff with his band, and other stuff. So he's not really going to be able to be a part of season 47 very much. So I am going to be the main host of the Tribal Lines podcast for this season of Survivor. So it's unfortunate we won't have much of Pat Johnson this season, but it's okay because we have an amazing replacement for tonight's recap. Tim Joy, how's it going?
Yeah, it's Steven. It's going great. It's awesome to be here. A little background on me is that I'm a huge Survivor fan, just like Steven and everyone else that comes on the podcast. But um, man, it's super cool. This is my first time doing an actual Survivor podcast as one of the guest hosts. So I'm honored to be here. I played in both Survivor Yukon, an All-Star season of Survivor Yukon as well. And then Steven and I did Survivor Brantford season 9 together where we met and so we had a great time doing it. So it's awesome to be here. It's like a full circle moment. The Survivor Brantford was actually on the Tribal Lines podcast. And so now we are back here together. So it's super cool.
Yeah, 100%. Great to reunite with you after being allies
Yeah.
on Survivor Brantford. It's a
Uh,
great season. If you
yeah.
didn't already watch it, go watch Survivor Brantford season 9
Yeah.
and watch us play on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to recap this episode.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. First off, before we get into all the tribes and what was going on before the immunity challenge, I cannot believe that TK, the biggest person probably on the most athletic person on the entire season, is the second boot. I don't think we
Crazy.
have ever seen this. Definitely not in the new era, but like
No.
almost never does someone like him go out this early on. Um, I understand pre-merge, but like this early on in the game where there's definitely going to be multiple more immunity challenges left to win. That's crazy that he ended up being the second boot, first boot of his blue tribe. But at the same time, he wasn't really helping them out much anyways in
No, I
challenges.
was stunned by it. I remember looking at a lot of the preseason stuff and then the first episode. I thought TK was doing okay. I thought people liked him and he was in a good spot. I kind of expected a almost like a Danny kind of thing from season 44, kind of like a Danny kind of season from him where he does make to the mid merge and then, he's kind of a big threat or a big player. Um, but yeah, he definitely he definitely rubbed people the wrong way and he got out much earlier than I thought. I do my own little Survivor draft with my brother and I had TK and now I feel like an idiot. So I was bummed to see him go. I thought he was super entertaining, but I can definitely understand why they did it. And so it was surprising nonetheless.
Yeah, it was surprising in terms of like his archetype. But
Definitely.
I don't know. I kind of after seeing the scenes from the next episode, from episode one going into episode two, I had a feeling that TK was going to be on the chopping block because when it said like somebody, like called us all losers, I was like, I feel like the only person who would do that is
Yeah.
TK because it's usually people who are athletes, big competitors, and when they lose, they get annoyed. So I
Definitely.
figured it might be TK, and that could rub people the wrong way. And if and I felt like Sue, Gabe, and Caroline were in a good spot to possibly work together. I know Gabe and Caroline didn't have necessarily a relationship, but I know that through Sue, they were pretty locked in.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had a feeling that TK might be in some trouble going into this next episode. I predicted Tawana, uh, right? That's Tiana? Tiana.
Yeah.
Yeah. I predicted Tiana was going to go home. But I also predicted that Blue was going to tribal. At least I got that right. But I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be Tiana versus TK, and we did get pretty much a Tiana versus TK in a way where Tiana had to
Yeah.
decide, do I vote TK out or do I work with him? So we did get that kind of back and forth between them that I expected to get. And Yeah, it makes sense, I guess, why TK would go home. He definitely had a good first episode bonding with the guys, but at the same time, the girls, they made it so obvious that the girls kind of didn't like that, didn't like the fact that TK was so bonded to the boys and
Yeah.
had this whole bromance going. So I didn't really think TK was in for the long haul. I wasn't the hugest fan of him, so I'm okay with him going.
Yeah.
Definitely over Sue because I think Sue is going to be a
She was
lot
great.
of fun to watch. And I loved that alliance that she has with Gabe. I love the one she has with Caroline. So I'm happy with how it all went down, but it was definitely a crazy episode talking about rocks. An idol was played. It was definitely a wild tribal, and I'm excited to later on in the episode talk more about it.
Yeah, it was a great episode overall. I thought we got really good dynamics of all three tribes, and the tribal was very fun, even though it was somewhat of a straightforward at first, you would think, a 4-2 vote, but it ended up being kind of complex and it was super interesting. An overall great episode, great challenge. So yeah, I had a great time watching it and watching
Yeah.
it again, preparing for this episode. It was great.
Yeah, definitely. So, before we get to this immunity challenge, let's talk a little bit about what happened in all of the different tribes. So, let's get into the tribe we probably saw the least this episode, the Red
Yeah,
Tribe.
definitely.
So, with the Red Tribe, it started off Rome decides to tell Teeny about the Beware advantage, shows her where it is, um, thinks that, oh, like I want Teeny as someone who I would love to work with as in this game, a great ally, and I think I can trust her. Um, I guess Rome has been really bad with reads lately because he thinks he's not being suspicious with his idol looking, and apparently
Yeah.
he's super suspicious and everyone knows it. And then now he thinks that Teeny is his closest ally when I feel like he should have chosen Genevieve to give this information to. It seemed like in the first episode they were the ones bonding the most. And I think Genevieve, we haven't heard much from her this episode, but I think she might be the only person that would go to bat for Rome if they did go to tribal.
Yeah. It
So
almost
I was a
reminds
little
me of
surprised by that.
it almost reminds me of the Venus and Randon connection from last season of having two people sort of on the bottom. One of them has an idol. It can be kind of similar that way, but you're right. We didn't see much of Red this past episode, and I'm kind of disappointed in one because I quite like the Red tribe, but
Hmm.
I have no idea really what the dynamics are except for Rome was kind of a problem, and then you have Teeny and Kishan as a tight pair. But I'd love to see Genevieve's perspective, Soul's perspective. I know Soul had an episode or had a confessional in the episode talking about how he's never met anyone like Rome before, but um,
Did
I think their
Genevieve get a
dynamic would be super
confessional?
interesting. What?
Did Genevieve even get a confessional?
I don't think so. I don't think Genevieve had a single confessional, which is very disappointing.
I feel like Genevieve is going to be the one going home. I feel like it's going to be Genevieve or Asia, and I think Red is going to tribal next episode. That's my early prediction. I'll talk more
Okay.
about that prediction later
Yeah.
on, but yeah, I'm thinking Red's going to tribal, and it's going to be Asia versus Genevieve because Teeny will tell everybody that Rome has an idol.
Yes.
It,
Yeah.
it will not be a secret. She already immediately told Kashan. And I thought this was funny because obviously Teeny did not think she was that close with Rome. So obviously, if there's any information in this game, she's going to tell someone. It's going to be Keyshawn, her
Yeah.
number one. And not only does she tell him about this, but shows him where the box is, opens it up, starts reading it, and then gets caught by Rome.
That was a great moment.
That was why that was
Yeah.
first of all so stupid for
Yeah.
Teeny to do that. Just Kishan's going to trust you. You do not need to show
Yes.
him where the box is. I think that was a little
Right.
too risky, especially when Rome uh showed her at night, knowing that in the morning he was going to want to go look at the box. So he
Yeah.
could have came at any moment in the morning to go look at it. So yeah, definitely not a good move on Teeny to show the box, go to the box, but I think a good move to tell Kishan so that they get even closer and they just feel like they can tell each other anything. Because I bet this is going to trigger in the future if Kishan finds some valuable information, will immediately tell Teeny. And I feel like Teeny is going to be the person on the red tribe where if anyone finds something or has valuable information, they're going to come to her first because everyone thinks that she's trustworthy, that she'd be a great ally, and she's just set up so well in this red tribe right now.
Yes. Yeah. Teeny is completely on top of the Red Tribe, which is great. I love Teeny. So it's fantastic to watch. I think obviously her telling Keyshawn and then getting caught by Rome was terrible, terrible for her. And it made me think like, oh, is there a chance that Rome just takes the idol and idles out Teeny? I don't think
I
that's
can
going to
see it. I
happen,
can see it. I can see it.
but you could understand why. You extend this olive branch to somebody and then they then show their actual closest ally and kind of look at it and kind of make fun of you as you aren't there and you find them. And so I was like, wow, like maybe this is somehow the downfall of Teeny, where Teeny's just doing amazing on this try, but maybe not anymore with this mistake. But um, thinking objectively, I think Teeny will be fine. I think they're that well insulated in the tribe that it's fine. But it did make me think, and it was a huge blunder, honestly. But I think Teeny's so good that they'll come back from it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Teeny did try to lie and say to that she only told Kashan because this is the four that they
Yeah,
want to work with. I'm assuming that the fourth person would be Genevieve in this four that's being talked about,
yeah.
because that was the
I
one
think
that
it might be
Genevieve.
Asia, actually.
I I don't think it would be Asia because Asia doesn't like Rome, so I
Yes,
don't think
that's
Asia
definitely
would ever
true.
like say out loud to anyone
Yeah,
that she would want to be in a alliance with
mm,
him. Um,
you're right.
the
I remember
first
the first
episode,
episode.
yeah,
Yes,
Genevieve said to Teeny like, "Hey, you, me, Rome, and Kashan," and then Teeny
yes,
was like, "Let's wait, hold off on Rome. Maybe
right,
Asia can get that fourth spot."
right.
Um, so I think that that would be the four that she's talking about,
Yep.
and I think Rome, being as clueless as he is, in some in some capacity, does believe that that is the majority four.
Yep.
Um, but as we see in a confessional, he does trust Teeny a little bit less than he originally did because of this, and
Yeah.
I think that if you said this lie to Rome just because you told Kashan, then totally fine. But the fact that you didn't tell Rome that you guys were going to check out the box and open the box,
Yeah.
where you possibly could have maybe stolen the idol too, like
Yeah.
I think that is what like a terrible, terrible move by Teeny. I don't think it's
Yeah.
gonna mess anything up unless Rome goes rogue and decides to idle her out somehow. But at the
Yeah.
same time, Teeny would never target Rome because knowing that he has the idol.
Right.
So
And she
I think,
talks about how it messes up her plans. And in that confessional, she talks about how her superpower is getting out of any conversation or getting out of any situation with just one conversation. But I actually think I agree. I think she did a pretty poor job of explaining herself, and Rome kind of indicated that. But again, Rome is a little a little clueless sometimes, so he could be clinging on to the Teeny tree and just hoping that it works out because Teeny is someone who's really powerful within the tribe. So maybe you just want to buddy up to them and hope that, you have this idol for one round of guaranteed safety. And then maybe it shakes up and maybe you can become the third in the Keyshawn Teeny alliance and Rome could
exactly,
fill that three. But,
exactly. I
if I
think
was them, I wouldn't want to work with Rome. So we'll see.
right. Yeah, I think that Rome probably doesn't trust Teeny as much as he originally did, but kind of needs Teeny in this game
Yes,
because it doesn't seem like
absolutely.
Rome has the best relationship with Sol, and I don't think he has a good relationship with Asia. So the only four that he could possibly work with is the four of Teeny, Kashan,
Yeah,
and Genevieve. So even if you don't trust Teeny as much, you need her, or else you don't have the numbers. So
absolutely.
I don't think he's going to really be that upset. Like in the back of his mind, he will be, but in reality, he's still going to rock with Teeny and Kashawn
Yeah,
for the first vote, I think, until he probably gets blindsided by the first vote as well, or he doesn't get blindsided, but then he ends up going home very next tribal.
I could absolutely see that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Rome ended up, we were just talking about it, chose uh to take only the one tribal idol and not
Yes,
risk it for the three tribal idol. Do you think this was a good move on Rome's part, or do you think he should have tried for the three tribe idol?
right. That's a great question. And knowing Rome from what we've seen in the episodes, I am surprised he did not go for the three, and then we know. I don't think the players necessarily had that knowledge, but we know that after the three, is a full-fledged idol if you decide to go for a third time, for a third adventure scavenger hunt. Um, but I'm surprised that Rome didn't try and double down and try and do another quest because Rome, I mean, he was a little messy with it, but he got the first idol clue and he was able to do everything. And I think his tribe was very suspicious of him, but they didn't seem to know for sure if he had anything. There was a point where Keyshawn, when Teeny is telling Keyshawn that he got the idol, Keyshawn looked surprised. He's like, "Oh my God!" So Rome did seem to hide it at least a little well. So I'm surprised he didn't go for a third one. But knowing the fact that Dantini and Kishan were looking at his idol box, I think he made the right call of just saying, like, okay, this is a lost cause. Let me just take the one idol and go from there. I thought that was a good move by him. I don't know exactly where his head is at in all of this, but from his perspective, hopefully he's thinking, okay, maybe I can't trust Teeny as much. Keyshawn knows about the idol as well. Let me just take the one idol, and everyone in the tribe's probably gonna end up hearing about this. So let me just take the one tribal idol, keep myself safe for one round, and then the dynamics maybe will reshuffle, and then I'll be good. So I think he made the right call. I am surprised he made the right call, but I'm curious on your perspective of it.
Yeah, I think overall he made the right call. I think there's pros and cons to both. Um,
Yeah,
I think that uh, people might be too scared to target someone who has an idol at all,
yeah,
even if it's a three tribal idol, because what if they do play it and have a majority on the votes on them, then they pretty
yeah,
much decide who goes home, and it could be you. So then
right.
if you think that he's going to be voting for you, maybe you want to change the vote to someone else, and then he could save his idol.
Yep,
So in that sort of strategic sense, I think it would have been a smart move to go for the three tribal idol. But I think that is the smart move to do if you don't already have the whole Teeny Keyshawn thing just happening. I
yeah,
think if only Teeny knew about it and they kept it between Teeny and Rome, I think Rome could have possibly gone for it with
yeah,
Teeny's help. But the fact that
absolutely.
Teeny told Kashan without telling Rome about this, I think made him a little sketched out, and he just wanted to have safety for this first vote whenever they go to tribal council.
Yep,
He wanted to be safe no matter what. He's going to play it on himself no matter what. Tell the whole tribe that, or at least tell Kashan and Teeny that. Um, and this could allow him now to be a major part of this vote. He will be possibly a swing vote or a crucial vote because we already know he's going to be safe.
yep,
And that could possibly, he might be thinking, position him for the next vote in the
exactly.
majority
Yep,
because let's say someone gets blindsided, if it's like a 4-2 vote or something, then that other person is now on the bottom and probably going to be next to go. So
yeah,
this could possibly set him up for the future rounds, everyone knowing he's safe instead of trying to be like, should we target him because he has an idol or not? No,
yeah,
we can't target him because he's definitely going to be safe.
exactly.
Um, so I think overall he made the right call, but I think if he was a little sneakier and nobody really was suspicious of him having anything, then I think maybe going for the three tribe idol would have been better. But with half the tribe already knowing about it, better to just do one tribal and stay safe and know you at least have a good chance of making the merge or making it close to the merge and
Yep.
having more time to develop relationships and have strategic conversations that could possibly change the game because it could change in just a few days who's aligned with who.
And I hope this is a wake up call for Rome that he needs to kind of chill out. We see later in the episode it probably didn't. I feel like if he does kind of calm down and act as a normal member of the Alliance, because it doesn't seem like he's being initially completely socially isolated. He looks like he is being included in things. Maybe his personality is making him included in things. But he's also similar to TK in a way where he is definitely getting on people's nerves by being too much all the time.
Mhm.
But if you can kind of sit back and relax, knowing I have an idol and I can just be normal in this vote and I don't have to strategize too much because no matter what, I'm not going home, then that could be really good for Rome. So I'm very curious to see how this red tribe in general shakes out because we don't know where Genevieve's at. We don't know where Sol's at. We don't really even really know who Keyshawn and Teeny are planning on targeting. We don't really know Aisha's thoughts on anything because she doesn't, as far as we know, she doesn't know anything about the idol right now. So it's just a very interesting tribe to see. So hopefully your prediction's correct and that they go to tribal council this next episode, because it'll be very interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, speaking of how Rome is just kind of not calming down and being a little too much. I mean, a lot of people kept saying in multiple confessionals this episode that Rome is a lot. He's a showman. He's
Yep.
cocky. And he really doesn't seem like he's gonna do well in this game. Like I really don't think he
Yeah.
makes it far. And even if he does make it far, he's not gonna win the game. I could see him being like a Jake from 45, where it gets to a point where you're at the final 10 or 9 and you're like this person is not going to win, let's just use him as a vote
Yep.
or just blindside him every time anyway and just keep him around. um I could definitely see that for Rome, maybe making
Yeah.
it to the end and not getting any credit, not getting any votes, and not
Absolutely.
being liked. But that's only if he makes it to a few rounds into the merge. If he
Yep.
can't, if he's at tribal at least twice before the merge, I think he's a gun.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I have to agree. Looking at it realistically, he's not going to last very much longer. I initially predicted that he'd be the first boot of the whole season. Obviously, Red hasn't gone to tribal yet, and with the idol, it's not going to happen. But looks like it probably would have happened had he not got the idol. But I agree. I don't see Rome lasting too long, and if he does, nobody's going to take him seriously, which is part of the game Survivor sometimes. Even if you don't do too much wrong, that's sometimes just how it happens. But in this case, I'm doing a lot more wrong than he is than he is right. But this is only episode 2, so there's plenty of time to bring it back. But he's got a he's got a long way to go.
All right, so let's start talking about the Yellow Tribe. So we start off with Andy finally getting his cheers from everybody. He cracks
Yeah,
open a coconut. Everyone is so happy. Let's go, Andy. Yes. I'm trying to make him feel included so he performs well in challenges. And I think it's so funny that like he's like, please clap for me, and then everyone's clapping, and then he's just honestly so excited. It's
yeah,
so funny because like he's like he doesn't feel like, oh, you're doing this for me just because I said it. Like he actually thinks they're like super
yeah.
excited to see him open a coconut now.
It's a bad look for Andy for sure. And it's a little silly on the whole tribe, but honestly, it worked. I feel like Yellow performed very well in the challenge, and Andy seemed to be doing great. Definitely better than the first challenge, at least. So,
Hmm.
um, even though they were infantile, what, how do you say that word? They were
Infinite.
babying him. They honestly kind of had a good point. It worked. He was happy. And he's did a lot better this episode. So the idea worked, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And the girls made Sam babysit Andy.
Yes.
And then he goes to pee and Andy is gone. Sam has lost him. The
Yep.
babysitter lost the baby. And he goes out and really quickly is able to find the beware advantage
Yeah.
and does the dumbest move
Oh,
ever.
That was
And he
rough.
knows he's on the bottom. He knows for sure he's on the bottom after his meltdown. And he leaves the viewer advantage, but not because he doesn't want to take it, because he wants a few hours to think about what his decision
Yep.
will be. Do you really think that no, like the girls were off? Of course they're looking.
Yep.
Sam was peeing. What if while he was peeing, he was looking too?
Yeah.
Like you got to expect that everyone, when they're not at camp and not doing an obvious task that you assign them to do, like go get water or something, um, that they are looking for an idol. So I know you had to put it back in the same spot, but he should have just like he was worried about losing his vote. Like you don't need your vote if you are on the bottom. I
Yeah. And
guess
I'm
he
kind of
thinks he's
curious
not on
on
the
that.
bottom, but I don't know.
Well, because a couple minutes before that, Andy asked Sam, "Oh, should I go look for the beware advantage or the idol?" And
Hmm.
Sam's like, "Oh, no, no, no." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I need my vote." And we don't really know the dynamic there, but I don't know if Andy's currently being fed a fake story or maybe now a semi-real story where he's saying like, "Oh, me, you, and like Sierra are gonna vote out Annika or Rachel." Maybe in that case, they definitely do need Andy's vote. But of course, they're probably just telling him that so he doesn't get the idol. But um, you know, I get your votes is super important, but how can he not think he's completely on the bottom?
Right.
Um, I mean, from my perspective, the vote did not really go the way I had thought it would. On the first episode with John going home, I was a little bit surprised on that because
Oh yeah,
Andy's
I
kind
was
of in
very
that case.
surprised. I thought it
It
was
was a
gonna be
shock.
Andy for sure.
Um, I understand the decision, and he's not a threat, and he's a little bit stronger, and I get all that, but um, it should be fairly obvious to Andy that he's completely on the bottom. So why not get the rare advantage? And he seems to have benefited from the situation at least a little bit, where he told Sam like, "Oh, I found the big rare advantage, but I can't, but I don't have it anymore." So if he just got the big rare advantage, he could have told Sam, and they could have worked together on it. Like he could have benefited from it. There was no reason for him to put it away, and it was a
100%. Yeah,
that's a
because like the
mistake he'll
whole
regret for quite a while.
if it's because of the whole I'll lose my vote thing, well
Yeah.
then yeah, exactly. You tell Sam who you think is your number one ally right now, and you
Yep.
guys both work together to find
Absolutely.
this idol so that you get your vote back. Um, I think it's absolutely worth it. There in the past, there hasn't
Yep.
really been too many truly difficult things to do
Right.
before getting your vote back. I think the only one was Survivor 41 where um, you had to wait until all three idols were found, which
Yes.
was really I thought that was really silly. Now looking back on it, I thought it was cool back then, but now looking back on it, really silly because you can't really
Yeah.
control if other people are going to find the
Exactly.
idols or not.
Yes.
Um,
And I'm glad they changed that.
yeah, I'm very glad they changed that. But they got to know that it's all in your own hands now. It's probably some sort of task, some sort of clue to something you need to go get.
Yeah.
And you could do it and be fine.
Yeah.
Um, it saves you for another tribal. And he had just had a meltdown. He should have known that even if he didn't think he was on the bottom, he could still be a target because of his meltdown. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, I was yelling at the screen when I saw
Yeah.
Andy leave it. I was so
Yeah.
excited. I was so excited that he found it. And then when he put it back, I was screaming at him.
I really thought he had a chance of it actually staying there, but man, a couple hours later they find it. That is tough luck because they've
That
been
is
out there for
tough.
five
Yeah.
days. That is
Just
tough
a,
luck, but um you can't take that risk. I mean, there's really no benefit, You either you stay in that position and don't move from that tree until you decide, because wow, that was a huge mistake, but
yeah.
we'll see.
And then we get Sam finds it with Annika,
Yes.
which obviously is
Yes.
not the best thing for Sam because meanwhile they're currently in an alliance. Sam, I feel like was well now in the game, Annika I think is his uh least close ally
Absolutely. Yeah.
in this game. It originally was Andy, but now he feels like he can trust Andy. Um, when he found it, He told Sierra, obviously, his number one ally, has to tell her that he has the idol, especially if Annika knows about it. And then he knows that Annika is going to tell Rachel, so he has to tell Rachel too. So
Yep.
now everybody except for Andy knows that he has it, and Andy thinks one of the girls has it,
Yep.
which is perfect for Sam because I
Very,
don't think
yeah.
anyone is going to tell Andy that Sam has this idol because nobody trusts Andy except for Sam. So I think Sam is in
Right.
a good spot right now with his idol. And
I do have a question for you though, based off that.
yeah,
Is that now there seems to be a little bit of tension between Sam and Annika, where Annika also said like Sam getting this idol is making him an even bigger threat than he already
mhm,
is. So now I'm curious if, you know, Annika, well, this gets into the previews of next episode, but I'm curious if you think that Annika and Rachel may be looking at Sam like this guy is like doing way too much. He's really good at this game. Is he a huge threat? Why don't we just get Andy and then vote him out or vote out Sierra, his number one? He's definitely
mhm.
making himself a big threat, but I totally understand he has to tell everybody in the tribe, except for Andy, that he has the idol because everyone's gonna know. But he's shaping up to be a huge threat, and I'm curious to see your opinion on how that's going to affect his like current status in the tribe.
I think overall, like in this game, he is going to be looked at as a threat. I don't
Yeah,
think, like, I thought going into the season that he would be someone who could be like an Austin, who can manage his
yeah,
threat level while still being looked at, like, just physically as a big
yeah,
threat, um, and still end up making it far. But the more I think about it, the more I feel like unintentionally he's going to still act like a big threat, and I think people will
yeah,
want to get him out eventually in the early-ish merge, um, especially because I think he'll, if he gets there with Sierra, they'll see how close they are and want to break that up. If a large amount of yellow gets there and they don't want to turn on each other, that could be an easy person to target from
yeah,
maybe that tight group. Especially if Andy doesn't want to flip and if Andy goes into the merge with people he actually does trust from the yellow tribe.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like it's definitely going to be interesting. There's two possibilities that could happen. It could be Sierra and Sam vote together, and Annika and Rachel vote together, and now Andy's the swing vote.
yeah,
Or it's the plan is everybody to throw votes onto Andy, and then Sam plays his idol for Andy,
yeah,
which I want to happen so bad. I want everyone to dump on Andy. I
yeah,
want Andy to get the idol played on him by Sam, and I
yeah,
want Sierra, Andy, and Sam to be the three-person majority in that group. Get Andy to that merge.
yeah.
That would be awesome.
It'd be incredible, and I think there's a decent chance it happens, but that's a big risk for Sam to take, and that would be a huge move right in the beginning of the game where you're already becoming a huge threat for that. But there's some value to doing that. I mean, we saw it in season 45 where we had Caleb and Emily. It's a very similar dynamic where Caleb was like, there's a value in Emily. And
Yeah.
Sam sees it the same way. There's a value in Andy. And we almost saw there was a huge value in Andy with Andy getting that idol, but Andy's Andy didn't get the idol. But man, if Andy got that idol, Sam would have been spot on. He would have been like, Andy has value. He would have known about the idol from Andy. They could have worked something out together. So I like how Sam's playing the game, but it does make me nervous because it could go awry for him very quickly. But he's slated to make some big moves the next time this tribe goes to tribal.
Mhm.
So I'm super excited. And he only has the one round idol. So that thing's
Exactly.
gonna
And
get
that's
played.
why I think he's the kind of player who I don't think unless unless he knows the vote is going to go his way, I think that he will want to use this opportunity to make a big move that will benefit his game.
Yeah,
I think that he didn't just take this one tribal idol to not use it or
right.
to use it and get no votes cast against him. I think he wants to use it strategically,
Yeah,
and I think it would be smart to possibly play it for someone else,
yeah,
um, as long as Yeah, because Andy's close with Sam, and I could see the girls trying to team up on Sam, but then Sierra wouldn't do it, Andy
Yeah,
wouldn't do it. Um, so it doesn't seem like Sam's going home. So I think Sam would play it on Andy possibly if they
yeah,
do eventually, if they do try to go after Andy. I think that Sam is going to try to target Annika. I think that was going to happen before this blow up that's about to happen, probably
yeah,
next episode, based on the scenes from the next episode. Um,
yeah,
but I hope it all works out and that does happen. I'm not the biggest fan of Annika. I don't know why. I just like I she annoys me. All of her confessionals,
yeah,
uh, and I don't think it was smart for her to have taken that leadership role very early on.
yeah,
I think she could have done better as a more under the radar player who's trying to develop those social bonds a little bit more than she has been.
yeah.
I think the only reason she's not voted out yet is because she didn't make any waves yet,
Right.
but I think she might start making waves in the very near
Yeah.
future. So I could see Annika going home next if they go to tribal.
Yeah, I definitely view her as a pre-merge villain in that sense, and she's the villain that of the Yellow Tribe, and I'm very curious to see how that goes because I can completely see it shaking out that way. I would be very interested to see her at merge, but I agree, I don't super like her chances of getting there in the first place, but um I think Annika is quite funny in her confessionals because she's a little bit more villainous than other people, and so it's always a little
Yeah.
bit interesting to watch. So I'm excited to see this tribe go to tribal too. I'm like,
Yeah,
so
no, honestly, we have a lot of good tribes going to tribal council. I
yeah,
think any way you shake it, it definitely will make for a good episode.
yeah,
And
yep,
we don't always have three tribes like that where you don't really know what's going to happen
right,
or you kind of can predict it, but still something could throw a wrench in the plan.
right,
So it's definitely going to be interesting. Anyone who goes to tribal, maybe blue a little bit less so now,
yes,
um, but they gave us a really good one
they
this
did. They gave
episode.
us a good one. But yeah,
Um,
I'm interested to see how this tribe goes. I think Rachel's in a very interesting spot. I think Rachel currently is. I wasn't super high on Rachel in the beginning, but I think she's doing very well. Where she's not really attached to Sam, which might have some long-term benefit for her. Short term, it may put her in a little bit more danger because Sam's very powerful right now. But I think Rachel's in a great spot, and maybe there's some remnants of her relationship with Andy, or maybe it was cut off completely when she shut him down last episode. But um, yeah, I'm curious to see what her thoughts are on. I don't know how she feels about Sam. I know Sam didn't initially trust her as much. I think he really only trusts Sierra and kind of Andy, but I'm excited to see Rachel, and I'm assuming she'll get to the merge, so I'm excited to watch her.
yeah, I feel like she'll probably get to the merge as well.
Yeah,
Unless they lose two challenges,
right.
maybe she could be in danger, but
Yep.
um, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. I think only one more is going to be voted out of yellow.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Sierra, when she heard this plan that Andy, Sam immediately after like getting the idol was just like, so what if I play this on Andy?
Yeah.
And then you could see Sarah's face like, what, are you serious? Are you actually
Yeah.
considering that? Because Sierra doesn't really want to work with Andy. However, Sam does have the power, and Sierra is 100% loyal to Sam. So if Sam
Yep.
wants to go with Andy, she said she'll go with Andy.
Yep.
Sam's a little bit nervous about going to the four with three girls.
Yeah.
I totally understand that as well. So it makes sense for Andy's game, and I think it is smart for Sierra to stay with Sam and do what Sam wants because he
Yeah.
has this idol, because she knows that they are in lockstep with each other.
Absolutely.
So let's head over to the Blue
Yeah.
Tribe, the tribe of the episode.
Yeah.
We start off with Tiana thinking that there's bromance, that it's girls versus guys. But TK says that he doesn't trust Gabe anymore
Yep.
because of all of his antics, wants to form a three-person alliance with her and Kyle, who is his number one ally in the game. Tiana's down because it can't be a bromance if one of the bros doesn't trust the other bro.
That's right.
So I thought
Well
that was a
said.
funny line by
Yeah.
Tiana. So we have that three-person alliance. Uh, Also, before this, TK had told Gabe straight to his face that he doesn't think he's making great connections and that
Yeah.
nobody has told TK that they have a good relationship with Gabe, so he needs to do better job creating those social bonds. Um, he sounded a little bit like Q,
Yes. Yeah.
trying to coach someone to do better in the game. Um, I got somehow it worked for Q in the beginning of the game. I don't know how, but it's definitely not a good look for TK, and one of the many reasons why he eventually did get voted out.
Yep.
Um, you don't tell someone that they're doing a bad job with social connections. Like
Yeah.
it's just
I
like
mean, what's
why
the
would you say like
benefit?
oh like you're on the bottom. You probably should try to get off the bottom. Like I don't know.
You know, like he thinks TK is like, oh, like Gabe's my alliance member. I'm trying to help him out. But what benefit is there to really help him out? If you have a solid four, then what's the point? Maybe that's TK's trying to tell him, like indirectly, like, hey, you need to be closer with Tiana because Tiana's part of our four. But
Yeah, but then just
from
say it.
like, what's the point in lecturing him? Like, it's silly. And I'm surprised Gabe didn't have a confessional telling him, like, dude, what are you talking about? And
Yeah, right?
it speaks to Gabe's social prowess, I guess, because they had like a lot of people said they had no idea, but TK clearly had no idea about his alliances with Sue and Caroline. So props to Gabe.
Especially with TK bringing it up at tribal council to Sue.
Yeah,
Like Sue, like you haven't had any deep conversations with anyone. Has anyone had a deep conversation with Sue? Um,
yeah,
and then TK gets voted out instead of Sue,
yeah,
which just shows not only how cocky TK was, but how unaware he was about how other people were playing the game. He thought the only people
right.
playing the game were Tiana and Kyle and him.
Yeah,
But no, that's not the case. The other
it's
three
almost never the
were,
case.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
If it's hard to know the game that someone else is playing when you don't really talk with them or you don't feel
yeah,
close with them because most of your conversations are with your allies. So how do you know what other conversations are being had unless you're actually like paying attention? And some people are good, they're observant and they look at who's talking with who when. I don't
yep,
think TK is doing that. I think TK is too
absolutely not.
worried about his relationships that he's not worrying about who is talking with who outside of his allies.
Exactly. And for him, he doesn't see it, so he assumes it's not happening. But oh, it was happening.
Hmm.
Why?
Yeah, and Gabe, he's TK tells him pretty much to work with Kyle and Tiana, bring him in as the fourth number, but Gabe doesn't want to work with them. He feels more secure working with Sue and developing this relationship with Caroline,
Yep.
because like he said that they're on the bottom, they're wounded birds that he could save because they're desperate to
Yep.
get an ally. Um,
Yep.
and it worked out well for Gabe. At first, it didn't because Caroline was having trouble getting on board, didn't really trust Gabe,
Yeah.
but it was two things that sold Caroline on working with Gabe. One, showing the idol. That was a big time move by Gabe. Not all the time does it benefit you to show someone unless
Yeah.
that you're not close to unless you're already close with them.
Yep.
But it worked out well for Caroline, and she was almost there, not quite. And then Sue, Caroline's number one, kept talking up Gabe, saying, if we all
Yeah.
three work together, we're safe, we're good, we're gonna make
Yep.
the merge, like kind of hyping her up, like we need to work with Gabe in order to get far in this game. And that kind of sold Caroline, and that
Yeah.
solidified their three-person alliance. I
I was
think
a
it
little bit
also
surprised
helped the fact that Sue was
initially.
the target. I feel like if Gabe was
Yeah.
the
I
target,
was
maybe
surprised
Caroline would have
initially
been different. But
because, you know, Caroline was very skeptical of Gabe, and I understand that Gabe was walking around trying to find idols all the time, and he's in this perceived bromance. But I'm surprised she was outwardly skeptical towards Gabe And maybe it worked out in her favor because she got confirmation that Gabe had the idol. But I'm surprised she initially kind of shunned him away because that could be a game-losing move right there. And luckily it worked out for her, but I was surprised to see that. So I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but it was a little bit shocking to see at first.
Yeah, I feel like there's I see a lot more than I expect to see on Survivor, where people who are not 100% sold on someone don't actually lie and say, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah,
They kind of beat around the bush. But I see in
right.
other reality shows, they're just like, I'll do whatever it takes for the game. I'll lie to them and make them
Yep.
think I'm with them. And then if I have to backstab them, I will. But in reality, I was never with you in the first place. I just had to do what I had to do so that I didn't get
Yep.
voted out. I feel like lot more survivors than other shows are reluctant to do this,
Yeah.
which I don't understand why, especially pre-merge. I feel like merge, I understand because there's the
Yeah.
jury, but if you're not going to be on the jury, I feel like you should lie to whoever you need to, but not like so openly where it could get back to everyone and then you're screwed. I remember that
Yeah.
happened to, I forgot her name, but somebody on an earlier New Era season who was pretty much had everyone as their number
Oh,
one ally, like
SWAT,
said like,
SWATy,
oh,
season 42.
which one? Who was it?
It's season 42, Swati, I believe.
Swati, yes, yes.
Yes. Yes,
Swati,
which
pretty
was a
much
great
everyone
moment.
except for one person was told on the tribe that she was their
Yes.
number one. Um,
Yep.
and that easily got back to everybody, and then she got voted out because of it. So as long as it's
Yep.
not that crazy of lies,
Right.
then I think it's fair game. So I was, yeah, just like you, shocked that Caroline reacted that way to start.
Yeah.
Um, but it worked out.
It
Gabe
worked
was
out.
persistent. Gabe wanted to work with her regardless. Gabe was like, not like, oh wow, she doesn't want to work with me. More so like, okay, I just need to do a little bit more
Yeah.
to earn her trust. And once you earn that trust, you're locked in, and it makes sense. Because yeah, Gabe didn't knew he was the fourth. He did not want to be that fourth. He wanted
Yeah.
to be in that three. He wanted to be in the majority
Yep.
group. And he wanted to work with Sue. The group that wanted him to be the fourth was targeting his number one ally. If that was happening to me early on in the game, I wouldn't want to work with those people.
Right.
So,
No, I thought Gabe had a great episode. I mean, props to him. I thought he played super well with his interactions with Caroline. I think he built a decent amount of trust right there.
mhm.
Because I think Caroline has to reflect on this episode and realize my number one ally was going home, and maybe there's a factor of Tiana being the one that saved Sue rather than Gabe, if she's really biased. But Gabe was a huge part in Stu not going home. So I think Gabe built a lot of trust with Caroline, obviously a lot with Sue. And I'm curious on the dynamics of how that vote shook out with them convincing Tiana to flip. But no, I thought Gabe had a great episode, especially with using his idol and getting that paranoia maybe associated with him out of here. So
Mhm.
Gabe is playing great. I wanted to hate on him because he's sitting here the first episode saying, I'm going to be on the Mount Rushmore of new era players. I'm like, dude, come on. But like, honestly, he's doing great. He's doing great so far. So he continue that, maybe he has a chance. But yeah,
Yeah,
I thought he did played very well this episode.
I was definitely a little bit nervous with him being a
Yeah.
little bit messy in the first
Yeah.
episode, but um, I did say in the last podcast that I felt out of the messy people on all three tribes that he was still in the best social
Yeah.
spot where his messiness wouldn't actually affect him very much.
Right.
Um, and we see that it started to affect him early on, but he was able to move past it and still get Caroline, who didn't fully trust him, on his side,
Yep.
and TK still wanted to bring him in as a
Yeah.
fourth member. So even though he wasn't part of the main three, he was at
Yep.
least part of the four. So Gabe was still in a good spot, which I had a feeling of.
Yep.
Going into the season, I was high on Gabe. I felt like he was going to do well,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to see him bounce back and
Yep.
get now into a great spot on this Blue Tribe. I expect to see a lot more of him.
Yeah.
I'm very happy about it. Caroline, someone who I was extremely high on going into the season.
Yeah.
I am definitely more down on her now.
Hmm.
She is in the majority right now, but the way she handled the conversations with Gabe, and yeah, with the way she handled conversations with Gabe and just the way she was like talking strategy when I saw it on my screen from this episode,
Yep.
it didn't really convince me of her being that great of a player. Um, I do think she's going to eventually be an easier boot, maybe
Yeah.
sometime at the merge. Or she might be someone who just gets dragged along for votes and never really makes any big moves.
Yeah.
I was very high on her, not anymore.
Yep.
But I still want her to do well. I don't think it's gonna happen the way I thought it would.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. And I think earlier, or later in the episode, when TK is saying like, "Oh, who's had meaningful conversations with Sue?" I think obviously that was a very unfair comment, but I actually think Caroline deserved a little bit more of the flack because from a viewing perspective, we haven't seen Caroline have any strategic conversations except for with Sue.
Right.
And she didn't really have any working relationship with Gabe. So who else is she close to besides Sue?
Exactly.
We don't know. And in this
That's a
episode,
great
when
point.
Tiana and Sue are talking, and Sue's trying to get Tiana to flip, it's Sue's the one that's talking. It's not Caroline trying to do it. So who is Caroline close to outside? Is she close to like Kyle maybe? But like there's
No,
no
not even
indication of
Kyle,
that.
because
So like
Kyle's
we
not
don't,
in an alliance with them.
yeah.
So
So we don't know. And Kyle said he's with Tiana and TK. So like we don't where's Caroline? And hopefully she can kind of bounce back from this, but I agree. I don't think she's in a very good long-term stance and doing well in this game because she seems to not really be bringing it socially. But
exactly.
we'll
You're
see.
100% spot on. She had based on what we've seen from the four-person alliance, the three-person alliance, the new alliance with Gabe. At
Yeah,
that point, before all of that, she only had Sue, and at least to our knowledge, and the fact that only having Sue and being so apprehensive about Gabe just made no sense to me. It was just bad gameplay. If you
yeah,
don't have that many close allies, why would you even respond the way you did to Gabe in the
yeah,
first place, needing him to show the idol? If he says he's going to have your back, and Sue's the only other person who has said this, you should be happy that Gabe's saying this to
yeah,
you. So that's, yeah, I don't like the way she responded that way, and I don't like the way she's acting socially towards other people in the
yeah,
tribe, even though she's in the majority. I don't see her winning this game.
yeah. But I'm curious on the other people in the Blue Tribe. Like, for example, I'm curious how Tiana and Kyle are sitting after this episode with TK going home.
Mm,
Obviously, Kyle completely blindsided. He even said he like audibly said no when TK got voted out, which was kind of funny to me.
yeah.
But I'm curious where you think of the two of them because I got the impression that Tiana actually felt closest with Kyle.
Hmm.
Um, and I still had that impression after this episode. I mean, Tiana's whole battle this episode was she was battling like her strategic and emotional minds. And I feel like eventually it came into agreement where both her emotional brain and strategic brain said, like, I need to go this way. But I'm curious where Tiana and Kyle both sit after this because I don't really know.
Yeah.
Is
I
Kyle
I
just on
do
the bottom?
think
Is that it?
I think that Kyle's definitely going to want to rebuild that relationship with Tiana,
Yeah.
or else he's screwed.
Yeah.
I think if he does rebuild that relationship and Tiana is open to it as well, because you're right, I think Tiana's closest ally, other than maybe Sue, is well, I can't even say Sue because
Yeah.
even though Sue did a good job convincing her to vote with them, uh, it was between Sue and TK. If
Yeah.
Sue was close to her, she would have tried to get Caroline to be the vote
Right.
instead. Um, so that's, and then I think that if they do reunite, there's a small chance that Caroline could flip and vote out Gabe now that he doesn't have an idol. So
Mm.
I think right now the people who would be on the chopping block are I think Sue and Caroline are right now the safest people
Yeah.
on that tribe. I think the other three can totally be next. I
Hmm.
think if they lose another challenge, they might need tribe strength and therefore vote out Tiana. If they lose maybe two challenges down the line, I could see maybe Kyle,
Yeah.
unless he is able to build more relationships now that TK is gone,
Yeah.
and possibly work his way in because he is a really nice guy. They did not want Kyle out. They just
Yep.
did not like TK.
Yep.
So I could see maybe Kyle finding a way in through some cracks.
Yeah.
Um, but there is no crack between Sue and Gabe. There is no crack between Sue and Caroline. So Sue
Totally.
is the most safe on this
Oh yeah.
tribe, and Caroline is the most likely swing vote. So therefore, Caroline would never vote out Sue. So that's
Yeah.
why I think that Caroline or Sue would never vote out Caroline also.
Yeah.
So I feel like Caroline and Sue are the closest. Gabe could possibly be blindsided, but unlikely. I feel like Tiana is definitely on the chopping block
Yeah.
overall because I think they might want to keep Kyle for being a nice guy
Yeah.
and for being um, strong, but I could also see just get Kyle out. We've already built trust with Tiana.
Yeah.
Let's keep this four moving into the merge as a strong four rather than risk Kyle flipping.
Right. Well, I'm really curious on how this vote was kind of decided because um they initially said like, oh, it's obviously us three, Gabe, Caroline, and Sue together, and we'll go to Rocks if we need to, which is great and very fun. But they say
Mhm.
like, let's try and flip Tiana. And they said like, and Gabe was like, okay, you girls got to do it because they don't want to expose the alliance of three. Everyone knows Sue and Caroline are close.
Mhm.
And so
And
eventually
that's
Tiana
smart.
flips.
That was
But
smart.
do, I'm curious on Gabe's influence on that vote. Did he finally have a conversation with Tiana one-on-one and say like, "Hey, I'm flipping. I'm voting out TK."
So
And she's like, "Okay, well, I
that's
don't
my
want to die."
prediction. That's what I
Yeah.
think happened. I think it did not get shown because
Yep.
if it got shown, we would have known who was going home.
Yep.
I do think that Gabe told Tiana, "I'm voting this way."
Yep.
Therefore, he's pretty much saying without, I don't think he did it in a you have to do this or else
Yeah.
you're going to rocks type deal. I
Right.
think he kind of did it like, hey, us three are voting TK, and so we would love to have you vote with us
Yeah.
because if not, we would have to go to rocks, and I don't want to go to rocks.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And therefore, Tiana is deciding like she probably thought oh, if um I think TK and Kyle have my back more than everyone else. So even though I don't like TK, I want to work with him and keep the tribe's strength. And that's probably what she's thinking. But if she does that, she's guaranteeing a 3-3 tie where
Yep.
she has to flip someone where all the people on the other side said that they're okay with going to rocks.
Yep.
So Tiana, if she votes with TK and Kyle, she's guaranteeing that they're going to rocks,
Yes.
which is why would you guarantee rocks? The
Right.
only way you go to rocks is if you think you can flip the other person.
Exactly. If you,
If you
yeah.
can,
And I don't know what she was led to believe because I think the episodes tried to indicate like, oh, the girls are going to try and convince Tiana to flip. And then if she doesn't, we have three anyways. So, and then Tiana will flip on the revote, but it wasn't super clear. And I feel like the conversation, I'm hoping, because that would be the smart thing to do. But hopefully there was just a conversation between Gabe and Tiana. But I really don't know if the girls just said like, "Hey, you got to do this, you got to flip. Let's make it a 3-3 tie and get these boys out of here." And then when she does that, just say, "Oh, Gabe also flipped. Lucky us." And so that alliance isn't exposed. But I don't know.
yeah. I I don't know if yeah, I don't know exactly what conversations were had,
Yeah,
but I just feel like Tiana must have gotten some sort of inkling that Gabe was going to be voting that way.
I would hope so.
Or else, if you're thinking Gabe is going to vote with TK and Kyle, then why, again, like we were talking
Yeah.
about, why would you guarantee
Yeah.
rocks? So if you
Maybe
know
they're
where
hoping
three
Gabe would
votes are
flip. I
going,
don't know.
you should be the fourth.
Yeah.
So if you don't know where three votes are going, that's when you just make the decision that you think is best for you. But if you
Yeah.
already know three votes are going one way, be the fourth, be in the majority, be safe, and now whoever you voted with is your alliance
Yeah.
for the game. Uh, and so I feel like there had to have been some sort of talk with Gabe or maybe Sue or
Right.
Caroline saying Gabe has said he's voting this way too, something like that.
Yeah.
I do think it's also, and yeah, at first I thought it was really stupid, but then realized it was actually extremely smart for Gabe to play the idol on himself.
Yeah. It was great.
That was, I thought, the dumbest move ever. And quickly I realized that it was actually super smart
Yeah.
because one, if you play it on Sue, then it exposes that you didn't trust Tiana to flip with you.
Yeah.
So that would be bad for that alliance where you could have had Tiana on your side if you did not do that.
Yeah.
But it now puts you at risk to possibly being blindsided by Tiana. The only way that would happen is if it's a 3-3 tie. Now, if it's a 3-3 tie and nobody budges, if
Yeah.
Caroline doesn't budge, then we go to you have to unanimously decide.
Yeah.
And when you are unanimously deciding, it's between the people that are the people discussing it are the people that are not tied in the vote.
Right.
Now that Gabe is safe, he cannot be taken out from rocks. That gives
Right.
it from 50-50 and the alliance is going home to now
Yeah.
two-thirds, 67% chance
Yes.
for the other alliance going home and only 33% chance that his alliance is going home.
Yep.
So it's at that point, it's like, do you want an almost guaranteed chance that one of you are getting voted out, or do you want to flip with us and save yourself?
Yes.
And
Exactly.
so Gabe pretty much, and then if it was a 4-2 vote, he could just tell Tiana, it was the first tribal council. I only had this idol for one tribal
Mm.
council. I wanted to play it on myself to keep myself safe.
Yep.
Easy, and nobody would think twice
Yeah.
because Gabe knew he was not getting any votes. So it's not like, oh wow, you didn't trust me, so you played an idol on yourself. Gabe's name never came up. So why would Tiana think that, oh, Gabe doesn't trust me when he played it on himself when he was never
Right.
going to be a vote?
Yep.
So I think he did a great job. Tiana's not going to be mad at him. And even if Tiana flipped, he would have been safe as well as his alliance because they probably would have gotten Tiana to flip on the revote.
Exactly.
It was perfectly done. And now he's in the majority, so it's okay that
Yep.
he doesn't have an idol.
And everyone knew he probably had something because he was at episode one
He was
shenanigans.
Tarzaning around, as he
Yeah.
said.
Which is great, but it puts a threat level on you. And so he did a great job just playing it. And like you said, there was a lot of deeper strategical reasons. So yeah, I mean, he can make up a story like, oh, I just got nervous, or oh, everyone kind of knew I had something, but there was some deeper strategy to it. So it was a great move by him, and he did very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then something right before the immunity challenge that was talked about was Sue trying to take a nap on the beach.
Yeah,
TK wouldn't stop talking so loud
bro,
right next to her, talking to Kyle. The funniest part about that whole conversation was the amount of times he said, bro.
bro,
He said
over
it.
and
I
over
count.
and
I
over.
counted because it was a lot. I wanted to get this number. He said bro 18 times in that conversation. And remember, she tried to nap for an hour, and it
Yeah,
only showed 1 minute worth of
yeah,
bros. That's 18 bros. I would have wanted to kill TK. So I understand Sue being pissed at him. I
yeah,
understand Tiana being pissed at him,
yeah,
and I also do think it's interesting uh, the way Tiana had been thinking about alliances this entire episode.
yeah.
It's like it's okay. Like she doesn't like TK as a person and
Right.
doesn't connect well with him, but sometimes you can have an ally who you don't like but will
Yeah,
be loyal to you in the game.
yeah,
And yes, that is true,
yeah,
but I feel like that's usually the case later on in the game when it benefits your game to work with someone you don't
yeah,
necessarily work with. But I don't feel like for the long haul, for a 26-day Survivor game, you want to be working with someone you don't like.
yeah.
You're just going to get emotion is going to take over
Yes.
eventually. Once you get more hungry and more sleepy, eventually it's going to set you over the edge and you're going to want to vote them out. So I think even in that sense, Tiana made a better move going at the people she enjoyed spending time with more
Yeah.
than TK, who pissed her off so many times this episode.
Yeah. No, it's a good mindset to have just to say like, hey, I might not love this person, but I see the strategy in working with them. But it's okay to do the opposite where what she ended up doing with this episode. And overall, I think she made a good call for her. But I'm curious, do you think they made the right decision this episode, getting rid of TK? I mean, obviously the alliance of Gabe, Sue, Caroline, obviously it was a great decision to get rid of TK, but do you
Mhm.
think Tiana made the right call?
I
There's a big threat of rocks, so I get that. And sticking with TK is a huge risk because she probably knew that they would be going to rocks had she stuck with TK, but
I think
there's value in TK. Some,
I think the way based on the information she knew, yes. Based on us as audience members, no.
yeah,
I think that yes, eventually she would become over the edge and want to vote TK out because of how annoying he is
yeah,
and how cocky he is and his ego and everything. And the way he talks to people, especially after losing,
yeah,
which we'll get to very soon. But I do think that she was in a tight three
yeah,
where she was not the fourth. She doesn't
right,
know this, but she is the fourth in this other alliance,
right.
but she doesn't know it. So I think in terms of keeping her safe from a rock draw, I think this was the right move.
Yes,
But if she was to go far with a tight alliance, she had a tighter strategic alliance with TK and Kyle, and would have done better strategically in the long run if she could deal with TK
yeah,
going with them. But because he was so annoying and because she doesn't know about this three-person alliance between Gabe, Caroline,
yeah,
and Sue, she thought she was making the right move. If they, I do think that they will be tight if they can, most of them go to the merge together. But I do think that eventually Tiana will be an expendable person to the
yeah,
three-person alliance. And unless she makes tight alliances with other people on other tribes, she could be in some deep shit.
yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So let's talk a little bit about this immunity challenge.
Yeah.
Um, when it was revealed that John was voted out and Andy stayed, both tribes were so shocked. I was so excited to see their faces because I knew they
Yes,
would be.
I was
Because
too.
if I was in that game, I'd be like, "Oh, Andy's done for it.
Yeah,
He's an idiot for saying
yeah,
that." And then he wasn't. He didn't get voted out, and it was really funny. His like that was probably the funniest reaction from somebody who did not get voted out
yeah.
because it was so obvious that the other tribes knew it was supposed to be him.
Yes.
So he was like going up like, "Hey, let's go!" Like getting waving,
Yeah,
like getting really hype, and kind of like getting hype with the other tribes. I think um one that was totally okay because it was pretty obvious that people would think Andy is going home. And
yeah,
also very low key, it kind of got the other tribes like to have like some sort of extremely small connection with him because they were like he was like kind of like pointing at them like, "Yeah, let's go."
he's the underdog.
Yeah, he's the underdog, and I think the other tribes are going to honestly after seeing that he was able to survive a tribal, even after that, maybe at the merge try to pick him up as an ally.
I mean, for terms of swing candidates, Andy would definitely jump ship.
Hmm.
Is he should jump ship. I don't know if he will from Sam perhaps at this point, but hopefully Andy can somehow reestablish himself in the game and maybe he can regain his footing at merge if he makes it there. But I agree. I think everyone was a little surprised to see Andy still there, which is completely understandable. I'm disappointed we didn't see any reactions, any conversations from Jeff on the cast's reactions to this.
He usually
Jeff
doesn't
probably
do
did ask
that
questions, but it's probably
anymore.
edited out.
He
But
usually doesn't do that anymore, and if he
ah,
does, then it's usually edited out. And I feel
yeah,
like he should start doing that again. I know that um, Jonathan on Australian Survivor does that every single
Yeah.
time. And sometimes when Jonathan does that, people from the other tribe who was maybe blindsided
Yep.
decides to give some info about what happened
Yeah.
at Tribal, and that's always juicy. So
I
uh,
know.
I think he should before explaining the rules, if he doesn't already do it already, or at least put it on the show if he does it,
Right.
ask questions to the people who were like, why are you shocked that this person went home?
Yeah.
Or like what happened at that your tribal council and see if
Yeah.
anyone spills anything. So um, I feel like that's something that could be improved on that could
Yeah.
make Survivor even better.
But oh
But
well.
yeah. Rachel trying to sneak the rice into her back pocket.
Great moment.
An amazing moment. And for a second, I thought that was legal. I
Yeah, I
guess
thought it was fair too.
I thought it was fair game. Like it's your fault that you put a bag of rice
Yeah.
in the challenge. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. I
there
thought
must
I
be some
thought she
rule where
should
you
have been
can't
able to
steal
bring it
from
back.
challenges, like you can't steal rope to for your shelter or something. But I mean, they're starving out there, and that was like good thinking from Rachel. Let them have it. But
If it was season 7 with the Pirates and Rupert, it
yeah,
would have been allowed.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it was it was a bummer they made her take it out, but it was a great funny moment, and I'm glad Jeff wasn't mad about it or anything. It was fun.
Uh-huh. It also looked on Rachel's face like she knew she did something sneaky, but she
Yeah,
still thought she was going to get away with it. And she
yeah,
thought just Jeff was making fun of it and like pointing it
yeah.
out. But I think Rachel was just expecting Jeff not to actually tell her to empty it out. And then Jeff
Right.
says, empty it out. And her face and kind of the way she was speaking was like, you're kidding, right? You're just
Right.
joking. Like, I could keep it. It's like, no, take it out. It's like, oh, okay.
I get it. You're starving out there. They should have
Yeah.
let her have it,
I
but
think
it
she
was,
wanted to
yeah.
eat the raw rice. She was so hungry.
Yeah. Well, they got to use sand instead of rice next time. I don't know. They're
Yeah,
torturing the people out
but
here.
they should. Why are they using rice?
I don't
I
know.
I don't understand.
Looks better on camera. I don't know.
I guess so.
But it was a good
Um,
challenge overall. I mean, pretty standard. I liked the finesse little I don't even know how to describe it, but a little sliding board. I liked
yeah,
the
I thought it
team
was really
component of it. I thought
cool.
it was fun. It really showed some dynamics on all of the tribes, which I thought was awesome. It showed some tension between Sam and Annika once again,
It
where
did.
Annika was
You're
like,
right.
"Sam, you have to trust me on this." Um, and then we didn't get much red. I don't think there was too much back and forth on them. I believe it was
Right.
Genevieve, Keyshawn,
Rome.
and Rome, and the
Yeah,
only
Rome just being a
takeaway was Rome
showboat.
was like, "I'm the best."
Yeah.
So good for him.
Mamba
Um,
mentality.
Mamba
And then
mentality.
Genevieve's like, I don't know what that means, but let's
Yeah,
go for it. Let's go
yeah,
with it.
which was great. This is why they need to show Genevieve. She's got some good
Yeah,
moments.
that
And
that
then,
was her confessional. That was her only
yeah,
words all episode.
oh,
Like, I don't know
terrible.
what that means, but I'll go with it.
So, and obviously a lot of dysfunction on the blue tribe. So, good challenge overall. But
Yeah. So we get yellow in first, red second, blue's going to tribal. Blue tribe seemed to be smiling, and Jeff points it out, and
yep,
TK was pissed when he heard that
yep,
because he doesn't associate himself with people who are okay with losing,
yep,
and felt like they should have been more pissed off that they lost. And this angered Tiana. So Sue maybe thought, okay, we can possibly get Tiana to vote out TK because of
yep,
how upset she is at him. Uh, and this, I don't necessarily know if it was the main reason for her
yeah,
flipping, but it was for sure a reason.
yeah,
Not necessarily this in particular, but just a series of things proving to her that she doesn't get along with TK and
yeah,
that it would only be for a strategic relationship. And I think she she didn't want to look like an emotional player, but at the same time, I feel like it wasn't her being an emotional player. It was her realizing that there's not longevity with someone you don't get along with,
absolutely.
even if they will be loyal to you.
Yeah,
So, overall, I think she made the right call. I feel like for her, best option would have been to have gotten in that three-person alliance. I think she should have focused more on the people she liked anyway, developing a relationship with them rather than, oh, TK invited me into an alliance. Now let me just talk to the people that I'm in an alliance with but don't like.
yep. No, absolutely. How much did the challenge really impact the vote? It's tough to say. I think it's totally understandable if they really just wanted to use the anger as a plot device, and in reality, it was more of a numbers thing for her, because it's a little bit more interesting to see the emotions come out of it. But at the end of the day, she just liked the other group more a little bit, and it made strategic sense. It was a win-win for her. So,
Hmm.
it was a good episode for Tiana.
Yeah, definitely. And so we talked generally a lot about this whole strategy behind the Blue Tribe before Tribal Council.
Yep.
Something that happened in the very beginning was Tiana telling Kyle that she's pissed off at TK, and then TK telling Kyle telling TK, and then TK wanting all three of them to group up to
Yep.
talk about it and squash any beef that they have.
Yep.
He tried to explain himself. Seemed like maybe TK felt that it was squashed, but obviously Tiana was still upset
Yep.
and was annoyed by his ego. He was also
Yep.
saying in confessional that he needs to lead these people. He needs to tell them exactly what's going to happen because he doesn't trust them to be able to make a plan because of the way they reacted in the challenge. Um, so yeah, just his unfortunately his ego got the best of him, and it was definitely not someone who was going to be good for their game in the long haul. Even though he is the strongest person on the tribe, um, I mean, he didn't really help them out much. Like they won, they won one challenge
Yeah.
and
Just the one.
still got second place. Never
Yeah.
got first place before. Only got second place and third place. And there was not as no, there was still pretty physical stuff, yeah, early on
Yeah.
in the challenges before the puzzles. Um, so even with that, they were still in the back of the pack with yellow or with red, depending on the challenge,
Yeah.
in terms of physical stuff. So I also the fact that they were calling Sue the weakest on the tribe,
Yeah.
I saw Sue carrying that heavy ass block in the
Yeah.
first challenge
I
like
rewatched it
a
today. Yep.
boss. And I was like, wait, she's not fit. She's physically weak, you think? Like, did you
Yeah.
not see her?
That's an excuse. They're just using it.
Yeah, I feel like Caroline would have been the weak person that they should have like
Yeah.
targeted, like not Sue.
And I don't think their issue is strength. I think it's chemistry and working together. And hopefully,
Mhm.
with them getting rid of TK, obviously they're losing a lot of strength. There's no way around that. But I don't really think strength is their issue. So maybe they'll be better off with TK gone. And maybe that's part of what their decision making was. So we'll have to see. But I mean, I kind of agree with TK. He had said that this isn't a tribe that should be losing. I looked at the Blue Tribe preseason. I was like, this tribe looks stacked. They're not going to lose a single
Yeah.
challenge, and they haven't been performing. So maybe if they get rid of the negative influence, maybe they do a little bit better. But we could also be looking at this in 3 weeks and saying, "Oh, this is the beginning of the end for the Blue Tribe." They voted out TK, their strongest guy, and it's been downhill ever since. But
Hmm.
we won't know. But I don't think strength's their issue. So I think they made the good call in getting rid of TK.
Right. And honestly, I'm happy about these two vote outs and expecting if Annika's the next vote out, happy about, and also Genevieve if Red goes to tribal. Those are the people on all the tribes that I feel the least connected to as a viewer.
Yeah,
So I was happy that TK went out because I didn't really have much of a reason to want to root for him.
yeah,
Same with Annika, same with Genevieve. They're just not giving me much.
right.
And same with John. I mean, John would have been awesome as a narrator. He
Yes.
hosts this big podcast. He's like the biggest celebrity of the new era on
Yep.
this um, season, but he wasn't my favorite on the tribe.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it was him over Andy because Andy, I really like Andy. Andy
Yeah.
going into the season was my guy winner pick.
Yeah.
That's not looking great right now,
There's
but
still a chance. And he's
there's still
grown on a
that.
lot of people, I think, this past episode. He had a
Yeah,
he
he
had better
definitely has a
episodes. So
little bit
he's
of a
he's on the
chance.
upswing.
He's on the up and up. I don't think he can go as high up as Emily Flippin did, but
True.
I think he'll meet in the middle of someone who would still be targeted, and
Yeah.
I feel like he'll meet in the middle of Rome and Flippin, maybe a little bit closer
So
to Flippin,
we'll have
but
to see. I mean, Andy had this great confessional where he is kind of correct, where he says Survivor is a numbers game. And so all you really need is two really strong allies. And then statistically, you're not likely to go home if you have those really strong allies. Maybe that was an episode too early, and he's actually referring to Sam and Sierra. So who knows? Andy could come back. So
yeah, yeah. Now he really only needs two allies
yeah,
in
yes,
a tribe of six. He could have two allies,
yeah,
but if the other three all want to vote him out, are his two allies in the first few days gonna really go to rocks for him?
who knows? Yeah.
No. So that's when I was thought he was gonna be first boot after I heard that confessional because I
Yeah.
was like, no, Andy, you do need three people. You don't need
Yeah.
just two because if the others want to turn on you, they're not about to go to rocks for you the first
Mhm.
vote. So that scared me about him, but now it works perfectly because if you
Yeah.
have Sierra, if you have Sam, you're locked in. He also thinks he has Rachel, and I think Rachel thinks she has Andy. Even though Rachel doesn't want to work with Andy, Rachel
Right.
knows that Andy is kind of locked in with her
Yeah.
worst case scenario. So I think Andy is a little safer than we might think.
Yeah. I
We'll,
completely agree, which is
we'll see.
crazy to say after looking at him episode one. So look at him.
Yeah, uh-huh, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a 4-2 vote, TK with four, Sue with two,
Yeah.
Kyle completely blindsided, and TK, the other than Soul, the biggest guy on the cast, the
Yeah.
most athletic, who Asia said looked like he was currently in the NFL,
Yeah.
is now the second person voted out of the season.
Yep.
You never see someone like him going out second, and it is definitely cool to see something change up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there was an argument that all these small tribes in the new era were putting like women or even smaller people in general at a big disadvantage because having that tribe strength was kind of crucial in a small tribe. And we saw a lot of tribes go to tribal back to back to back.
Mhm.
Um, but it seems like maybe this cast is fighting that belief a little bit, and maybe it'll work out for them, or maybe they'll realize it was a big mistake. But it's nice to see a bit of a change because it doesn't often happen. I saw a stat somewhere, I think it was on Reddit, that this is the first time since season 28 where the first two boots were men. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's not super common at all. It actually almost never happens, but it's a fun little new trend for 47, and maybe it'll stay that way. But who knows?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. We'll see if that trend continues or not. I suspect it's not going to continue, but you never
yeah,
know. There's a chance Soul could go home.
yeah,
There's a chance
uh,
that Andy could go home, and then there's a chance Kyle can go home.
yeah.
So those are the three guys that are in the most
We'll see.
danger, I feel like,
Yeah,
on the tribes. But I do think that maybe Kyle is still the most in danger on blue, possibly Tiana, but I feel like
yeah,
Kyle probably.
yeah,
Um, and then I think Genevieve would be the next one to go on red. Um, and I think for for yellow, I think it's Annika.
yeah,
And I'm predicting for next episode that red goes. So I think Genevieve is going to be the one going home.
yeah. You don't think it's Soul?
So I don't. I
Yeah.
think that Teeny is gonna want to solidify something with Soul. I think they do have a close relationship, and it's just not being shown.
Okay.
I think Asia and Teeny are still locked in.
Yeah.
I think Teeny still doesn't trust Rome,
Yep.
and um, Keyshawn and her are locked in. I think they're going to want to work with Soul and Asia, and I think that that's going to put Rome and Genevieve in jeopardy, but Rome
Yeah.
has an idol.
Right.
So what I think is going to happen, which we'll talk about this right now in the scenes from the next episode,
Yep.
one of the things we see at the very end is Rome thinks he's running this game, and says, "You might as well call this Survivor Rome."
Yeah.
Um, I think that confessional was after the immunity challenge, after
Mm,
they lost
yep.
during strategy time. He has an idol. He knows he's safe, so now he can try to strategize with everyone
Yep.
freely and push the what he wants to have happen. Everyone is agreeing with him. He thinks it's going to go exactly as he plans, and
Yep.
his ally Genevieve is going home, and he's going to be blindsided.
I see that. I can see
That's what I'm
that.
thinking.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't see Rome really wanting to idle out Soul. So, I mean, I don't think Rome has any problem with
I
Soul.
think it would be Asia.
Yeah, I agree. I think he would go for Asia. So, yeah, I'm excited to see that. That actually makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. I can see Red going to Tribal this next episode. We'll see.
We'll see, because I predicted Blue going to tribal because of scenes from the next episode.
Yep.
If I can get this 2 for 2 right now,
Yeah.
I'm reading these scenes from the next episode
Yeah.
so well.
Yep.
I'm locked in.
I'll be watching next week and if I'll text you if I see anything.
All right, perfect. Um, and then the other thing that was noteworthy from the scenes from the next episode was the Yellow Tribe, which we had hinted at a few times
Yeah.
throughout the podcast. Annika asks Sam and Sierra, for starters, are you two dating?
Yeah.
That is sketchy.
That is sketchy.
I do not know if it's she's upset with them and actually
Yeah.
thinks that they are dating and maybe they heard a plan of trying to get Annika out and Annika's like flipping out, or are they like is she like
Annika
pretending to
just
be an
be asking as a
interviewer
joke.
and they're doing this like skit or something like that?
Yeah, Annika just could just be playing around and say like, "Oh, they're close. Hey, you guys dating?" as like a little joke. We don't really know the context behind it. Survivor
Mhm.
loves to play the little editing tricks on us, but we obviously have the scene following that where Sam is pissed and he's hacking it at
Yeah.
a rope with the machete. Is that related? We don't know, but that was a very interesting episode, and it looked even worse for Annika with that. So maybe they're trying to mislead us, or maybe they're just being fairly straightforward with the storytelling and saying like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen." But as you said, maybe Yellow doesn't go to Tribal for a while, which I could see, and maybe Red goes, and they're just giving us a little inkling of what could happen, but they're not actually going to Tribal next week.
Yeah. Well,
And,
so what do you think is
it's
the
weird.
reason Sam would be pissed?
I don't know. If Annika maybe was trying to out them and say like, "Oh, these two are a really tight pair. They're dating or they're just really close," he could be pretty upset about that. But it's tough to say. I don't really know why Sam would be pissed. And Sam always did strike me as kind of a cool, calm, collected person. So I'm kind of surprised him already getting very upset about something. But
Mhm. For
I don't
some
know.
reason, I don't think it'll be from a challenge. I don't think he's pissed because of an
Yeah,
immunity challenge loss.
right.
It could be, and maybe they do go to tribal, but I don't think so. I think something else is pissing him off. I could totally see that it is the whole dating thing, but
Yep.
I feel like if they put those two like right after one another in the scenes from the next episode, they probably are edited so it looks like they have to do it together, but they actually
Yes,
don't.
I agree.
I think maybe someone tells Andy about Sam's idol, and then now Andy doesn't trust Sam.
That's a great theory.
That could possibly
That
be
could be
what
it.
it is.
Yeah.
Um, um, yeah, I don't know. It could be that Andy finds the box and realizes what the whole thing is, and then I don't
Yeah.
know. Who knows what it is, but yeah, I do think that whatever he's pissed about, it's not going to be that crucial
Yeah.
to whatever ends up happening in the episode.
It usually isn't, but the comment about Sam and Sierra dating is very interesting. I'm
Mhm.
curious if that's going to be a storyline going forward, because right now they're just close allies. I mean, it happens, but um, I don't know. It doesn't look good on Sam because he's already a major threat. He does not
Isn't
need to show
Sierra
anything.
married?
I have no idea. I don't think so, but I don't know.
Really? I thought she was married.
Oh, I'd have to look it up. I don't know.
Maybe she isn't, and that would be interesting. But I don't know. I do feel like Sierra might be married, and then it wouldn't make sense. So I definitely am going to look that up after
Yeah.
after this podcast is
Talk
over to
about it next
find
week.
out because
Yeah.
I'm curious. But if they aren't, then yeah, this is not looking good for them how close they are, and it
Yep.
could be seen as a showmance that is not actually a showmance.
Right.
But I can see it turning into a showmance.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, either way,
but
you just
I don't
don't
know.
want to have a very obvious close ally, especially when you're someone as threatening as Sam.
Mhm.
So hopefully that does not come at his detriment, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so who would you say is your current winner pick? Um, a guy winner pick and a girl winner pick,
Yeah.
and then choose one of them as your official winner pick, and then also one person from each tribe you think has no chance to win the game.
Oh, okay. I'll start with people who have no chance to win this game.
Okay.
Um, I hate to say it, just based off the edit, I don't think Soul has any chance of winning this game. He hasn't been relevant. Same with Genevieve, really. Hasn't been relevant. And I understand not much has happened with Red with them not going to tribal, but I think Soul would be getting a little bit more content if that was the case. Um, and then I will say, just to keep the thing spicy, I don't see any chance with Sam winning the game. Sam has been a major character, but I think he's obviously somebody that is shaping up to be maybe a mid-merge huge threat, but he does not. I just don't see any scenario where people are willing to take Sam to the end. And while Sam, I think, would do very well in immunity challenges, he's definitely not going to win all of them to guarantee that happening. I love Sam. I think he's playing amazing, but I just don't see him winning. And then on the blue tribe, I'd have to go with I'll stick with the safe answer and go Kyle as someone with no chance of winning. Not much content. He had almost nothing the first episode, and even on this episode, he had very limited stuff. And Survivor likes to have their winners be shown as good game players. Like for example,
Especially
Gabler.
recently.
Yeah, and Gabler, for example, was shown in a negative light sometimes, but um, Kyle openly admitted he struggles with strategic talks, and I just don't see an avenue right now of it working out for him. First, first time he goes to tribal, he's blindsided. I just don't see it really working out for him, unless somehow he makes it to the end with like Andy and someone
Yeah,
else where he can just
exactly.
being a nice guy.
The way he talked about his game, like you said, he doesn't consider himself a very strategic
Yes.
thinker, or even maybe he is a strategic thinker, but he doesn't do well with the strategy talks, he
Yeah.
said. Um, so that's not good for
Not good.
winning the game.
Yeah.
It's also the way he said, like, everyone says nice people can't win the game.
Yeah.
Um, if you're being so nice to the point where you won't backstab someone or make a move that benefits you in this game, um, you're not going to make the end.
Yeah.
Like, Kenzie is such a nice person,
Yes.
but she made the moves she needed to make. Um, I don't think Kyle will be that kind of person.
Yep.
So even if he makes it to the end, I think he'll be someone who doesn't get credit for anything. Um, and for Red, I think Rome will rub
Mm.
people so much the wrong way that
Yes.
there's no way there's a
Yes.
tribal council scenario where he wins unless he actually like finds three idols and
Oh,
wins
yeah.
tons of immunities and
Yep.
kind of has a social game.
Yeah.
So I think Rome definitely won't win. I
Definitely
think
not.
Kyle definitely won't win. And I don't th just the even though Annika is kind of in, at least for the first vote, was in the majority, um, it seems like Sam doesn't really like her too much or
Yeah.
trust her enough. Um, and the way she was trying to lead the tribe in the first place, I just don't see a path for her to get to the end. Um, I could see a path to get to the end and possibly win for the other yellows.
Yeah.
While Sam is unlikely to make it to the end, Andy is unlikely to win if he makes it to
Right.
the end. I do think that out of all three of them, probably Annika has the smallest
Yeah.
chance
I
to
agree.
win the game. So I'm going to go with those three.
Yep.
And then for my winner picks, for girl, I'm going with Sierra.
Mm.
I
Okay.
started preseason with her. I
Yep.
started going episode one, going to episode two with her. I'm keeping her. She has not done anything wrong that would make me want to switch my winner pick yet. So I'm going to keep her
Yep.
as not only my girl winner pick, but my official winner pick.
Nice.
And then for the guys, someone who I thought for sure couldn't win the game prior to the season, I now think has a really good chance to win, kind of like a less out in the open jam type guy. I think Kashawn
Yes.
is someone who is going to be loved by so many people
Yes.
and can make it to the end and pitch a good game at the end.
Yes.
He's not as vibrant as Jam, but I
Mhm.
think he will be as lovable as Jam.
Yes.
So I could see Kashawn being the guy winner pick for me.
Yes. Yeah, I want to echo your sentiment about Keyshawn. Keyshawn was going to be my guy winner pick as well, and probably my overall pick.
Okay.
Keyshawn had a great confessional about saying how Rome is a very flashy player where they have a bucket list and they want to do everything in this game. When Keyshawn's my strategy is the exact opposite, to lay low and to only strike when necessary. I think that's great for Keyshawn's chances. And we've been shown that Teeny is a major player in not just their own tribe, but the whole game. And I think Teeny may be a little bit too threatening by the time we get to the
That like
merge.
if they need to be targeted, Teeny would
Yes,
be the target, not
exactly.
Keyshawn.
But
Hmm.
but I think Keyshawn is putting himself in a great spot. So I agree. I think Keyshawn is a great winner pick. Um, and then for girls, I still want to stick with Sue.
Okay.
Sue has been a major character so far, which sometimes can be a negative in terms of looking at the edit and saying this is the winner if they're too prominent in a way, which is a little silly. But again, they don't want to spoil the winner. But I think Sue has shown she's been phenomenal socially. She's her closest allies, like Caroline. Sue is sorry. Caroline is Sue's closest ally, but Sue is also Caroline's closest ally, Gabe's closest ally, and maybe Tiana's closest ally. We
Hmm.
don't know that for sure, especially with Tiana, but Sue is doing amazing socially, and she's been in the kind of the limelight because she was the one being voted for this past episodes. But I'm very high on Sue. I could really see her winning, especially with the close relationship she has with Gabe and with Caroline. I think she's in a great spot.
Hmm.
So I think Caroline would be my girl winner pick,
You mean Sue?
and I think I have to stick with Keyshawn as my male winner pick. In agreement with you.
Yeah. And another great thing about Sue is uh she was in a position with this tribal council where she could have easily been at a 3-3 tie,
Yeah,
which is very scary. But all she needed was one person from her alliances to flip, and
yep,
she was going home. She stayed so calm and collected.
yeah,
The way she talked strategy with her allies, trying to say, like, I trust you guys, like, just let's stick to the plan, let's stick together, like, we got this. I would go to rocks for you guys. Like,
yeah,
the way she talked with her allies made them feel so secure with her,
yep.
which was really good. And also, she did not get paranoid at all unless they didn't show it, but I really don't think she was paranoid at
No,
all.
she was solid.
I think easily people would spiral in that sort of scenario when they
Yeah,
know that it's most likely a 3-3 or 4-2 vote. It's too close to not be paranoid, and
right.
she wasn't paranoid.
She did
And I
great.
think that is definitely a great skill to have in this game, and
Yeah,
will she knows how to talk to her allies. She knows not to get paranoid,
right.
and she also, I feel like, is good at reading the room because she was right. She said before the immunity challenge, it seemed like Tiana was locked in with the guys. After what happened, it seems like we might be able to get her onto our side. She read that right. She
Yep,
was locked in with the guys, and then she was able to flip Tiana. So she's reading people well as
I think so.
well. So I think all of that definitely puts Sue at a much higher like ranking position in terms of
Yes.
winners for an older woman in this
Yeah.
game. Like older women in the new era have like other than one older woman in
Yep.
42, all the older women have made Final Five or better.
Yep.
And I guess Heidi, no, not Heidi, Maria and Julie were the only ones who had true winner stock.
Yes.
Um, but that's only, I feel like, because for Julie, it was really just because she was the mom of the tribe, and
Yeah.
obviously you want to give the mom the win.
Yeah. Super lucky. Yeah.
So that I really am not going to count that as much. I
Yeah.
do think Maria did play a good game,
Yeah.
but also socially, she started to get a little bit worse towards the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
I
But
feel like
people still respected her. And I think
people
people
still
will feel that
respected
way
her,
also.
especially because she won a lot of challenges as the older woman,
Yep.
which was good. But I think Sue overall will be able to have a good social game and have good allies, be under control in when times get tough. And I think if she makes it to the end, she will probably have it hands down unless
Yeah.
she's with some other big threats.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had so much fun
Yeah.
talking Survivor 47 episode 2 with you, Tim.
This is
Thank you
great.
so much for hopping on.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what goes down in episode 3 and if any of our predictions end up coming true.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you for having me. This was a blast. This was super fun. And it's always great to like really get into the episode. Like I feel like my understanding of it was just elevated so much more. So this was a blast. So thanks.
Of course, of course.
All right.
Definitely have you back anytime.
Yeah.
And anyone out there who wants to become a guest host this season, I am always looking for guest hosts to hop on to help replace Pat. So if you want to become a guest host for a future episode, hit me up on Instagram DMs at Stephen Lupo 9 on Instagram or our tribal lines page at tribal_lines_pod, and we will make sure to get you on one of the episodes.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you back here for episode 3.
Thank you.
Peace out.